Episode 242. We are still continuing with Belphastus. We're going to bring in Preorder, the secretary of Satan, and we're going to bring in, well, Lucy herself. So hopefully you listened to the last episode and you've had a wonderful new year. Go check out Grendel Press. They support us, our partners in crime. They have a brilliant selection of horror books. That's the word, isn't it? So go check them out. There's links down in the description-y thing. So I'm going to burp. Sorry about that. Enjoy the show. Bye.
I am Preorder. That is Preorder. When you pronounce it, you need to roll it like a curse and finish it like a sigh. I'm a minor demon of something unimportant, which I've already forgotten about, which is hell's way of saying expendable but useful, and I am, by Lucifer's own irritated admission, her personal assistant. Maybe secretary? Or, as she once snapped during a particularly bad millennium, her personal demon. I am very personable, not very secretarial. Whatever. Titles matter less when you're very good at listening, I think. I am shaped like a small black cat, which wasn't an accident, a punishment, or a whim. It was a strategy of mine. As you probably well know, cats move between spaces easily. All spaces easily. It's what feline kind is built for. This has been noted by witches, scholars, madmen, and at least 3 regrettable popes in medieval grimoires, like the Liber Maleficorum, the Malleus Maleficarum, in their marginal notes, that everyone pretends not to have read. Cats are described as liminal creatures. Liminal is a great describer of me, us. We sit on the thresholds. We wonder where the walls wear thin. We step sideways rather than forward. Witches didn't keep cats because they were cute. Well, maybe partly. They kept cats because cats noticed things before the screams did. Black cats, specifically, were believed to absorb malign influences, slip between the earthly and infernal planes, and return with information and promises. That's what I do, described with hellish precision. The superstition that black cats are bad luck comes from people realizing, far too late, that the cat had already seen what was about to happen. I also have to say being cat-shaped is utterly marvelous. As a demon, I used to have horns, 7 of them. Do you know how often horns catch on things? Doorways, robes, other demons. One humiliating ritual tapestry incident I will not revisit partly spoiled a decade. Whiskers are vastly superior. They tell you when reality is too close. I now walk with surety that I can pass through the gaps between places. This is personal growth. Oh, and my fur. My fur is black and soft like silk poured into shadow. No more scales. Scales itch. Anyone who says otherwise is lying or still molting. I have retractable claws, too, an upgrade demons do not get by default. They are utterly wonderful. Sometimes I wish cats wore clothes by choice. We won't go into the torture that well-meaning owners do to cats when they put a jumper on them. Those owners are damned, though, for doing such. But with no horns and retractable claws, putting a woolly jumper on would be relatively easy. A demon can't put on an amusing Christmas jumper. Oh, not for the religious reasons you think. I think you even realize we have taken Christmas back. Material items are thought of now as Christmas. Families are brought together to fight, Christianity has little to do with it for most people. It's a good time for us, not so much for the birthday boy. No, they can't be won because the claws and horns would rip them up, and they do so when we try to put on our little Christmas jumpers. Hell can be so cheap. What else? Oh, I must mention my cat eyes. Green enough to unsettle saints and make mortals say, "Oh, kitty." They're terrifyingly pretty. They're my favorite part of this cat's body. And they let me see all. So as you see, everybody thinks I'm adorable. Think about how you love that little furry psychotic murderer you have at home. No one suspects they're listening, and that I'm listening through them. I'm an invisible listener. Which is fortunate, because I'm currently perched nowhere at all, observing a conversation between Astaroth, regent of hell, former goddess, walking theological crisis, and Belphastus, the mortal who thinks ambition is a substitute for survival. They have no idea I'm here and listening. They're speaking in that careful way clever beings do when they believe they're outwitting one another. Astaroth offers tasks with velvet menace. Belphastus nods with borrowed confidence. Each assumes the other has missed something vital. They have. Both of them have missed something vital. Astaroth believes Belphastus cannot complete the third task. Belphastus believes the Ring of Summoning will let him bind Lucifer and Astaroth. I listen as Astaroth explains ancient authority, forgotten divinity, thrones taken and lost. I listen as Belphastus pretends awe while cataloging weaknesses. It's rather like watching two spiders complement each other's webs while standing in the same bathtub with the water running. Oh, they're very clever. Just not clever enough. I flick my tail. I purr. I record everything. Lucifer will want to know that Astaroth is enjoying himself. She's better than both these fools, and that Belphastus is lying without lying. That the ring is now a focal point for mutually assured damnation. Yes, most of all, Lucifer will enjoy knowing that everyone thinks they're ahead of her. They're not. I stretch, claws quietly unsheathing and resheathing as I do so. I'm already rehearsing how I'll tell her. She'll pretend not to care. She will care very much. She may swear again. I cannot wait for that. A fleeting glance at the boss losing a fraction of self-control feeds my ego? I slip sideways through a seam only cats and demons notice, laughing softly to myself. Oh, this is gonna be so much fun.
Belphastus. Travelling back from hell would take me 10 minutes to describe, and I can't be arsed, to be honest. It started and it ended in a hell of sorts. Sadly, I was spat out of the travelling portal wormhole gateway thingy onto the rotten vinyl of my rank bathroom floor. Realised I was bloody late for work the moment I hit the floor and felt a flat smug about it. Oh, you might wonder why work's so important to me. Well, that will become apparent later in this episode, so you'll just have to wait, won't you bastard? The spirits in this shithole of a novel are right bastards. The mould above the sink had that look. Oh, you think I can't tell when mould has it in for me? No, I can tell when mould is being a right bastard. How, you ask? Well, you might well do. Well, it looks like that. That's how it looks. Uh-oh, you can't see it, can you? Well, just bloody accept that it is, alright? A right bastard mould. The kettle was taking longer than necessary too. I was watching it do so. I know I watched pot never boils, but this bastard was not boiling on purpose. Even the floorboard by the door creaked in a way that suggested judgment. That bastard in bedsit has opinions, and most of them are about punctuality. Hell's throne was vacant. Lucifer was right proper distracted. Astaroth thought he were clever, and I was still arguing with a toaster that only worked if you whispered encouragement to it. The bastard. Hal had left early for work. Course he had. Hal E. Torsis always left early. He believed in arriving before consequences kicked in. He taped a note to the fridge with a kind of urgency normally reserved for nuclear evacuation procedures. Master B.
Go ahead. Karen's all very angry.
She always is. So that weren't news.
She said if you're late again, she will fire you. The real kind of way. Whatever that means.
I laughed. Out loud. A hollow little bark that startled a spider. Flashed one of its pedipalps at me, giving me the spider equivalent of the middle finger. I was confused at this, but I was right in this reading of arachnid sign language as it told me to fuck off very clearly in English with a Brummy accent right after it made sure I understood its gesture. I smiled at that. I appreciated that this little hairy-toed bastard was at least a bastard to me face, unlike other spirits in this place. Anyways, back to the fridge note after my spider side quest. I laughed again, rereading it. Karen threatening to fire someone was always funny when it wasn't you. Well, it wasn't Karen either that were doing the firing. Astaroth wears Karen's skin 5 days on, 2 days off, a rotating possession schedule. It adds a certain gravitas to the phrase disciplinary action. Being fired by her didn't mean unemployment, it meant post-mortem career development. Well, no, that's not true, is it? Being fired by Astaroth meant an eternity of flames tickling the toes of your mortal soul. Oh, and possibly a little plastic star on your laminated badge. I hate those bastarding stars. Never even had one during me 8 years, 3 months, 15 days and 9 hours of service. The bastards. I shrugged into my McDonald's uniform, the cloth clinging to me like it knew I hated it. It probably did, though. Most things do. It felt horrid against my skin, being a classy, non-polyester mix. The name badge I stabbed myself a couple of times in the finger and chest with before attaching it to my top read Bell, because Belphastus the Unclaimed, breaker of seals, future tyrant of hell, was already being used. No, that's a lie. Purely for comedic value. I can't see you, and I can't hear you, but I can imagine you rolling in the fucking aisles about now. Truth of the matter is, that name, it was just too big and it wouldn't fit to be of a font size that you could read it. As I tried and finally tied my asshole bastard shoes, the irritation bubbled up in me again. I'm not meant to be in this pathetically poor position. Does the world not know me? Know who I am? Belphastus, the one child of a man and woman who never met. Well, that's what I call a bastard. I've torn holes in reality. I've read and written books that made bishops weep blood and sometimes wee themselves at the same time. I've negotiated with right horrible entities that don't experience time so much as chew upon it. And yet, even taking all that into account, here I were, minimum bloody wage. 1 free meal per shift under 12 quid, not including milkshakes. Not that the milkshake machine ever bloody worked anyway, we're fucked. And here's where I am. All because of Evangeline Ginny May Picklethorne, Prosperity Witch of New Orleans, 3rd generation hex specialist, and the pettiest human being ever to weaponize lavender oil. Oh, and she really could, weaponize lavender oil. Her lavender-treated pillows would help you sleep. Forever. Know what I mean? Forever. Like fucking dead. Like not waking up styly. Ginny May had cursed me for a reason so small it made my left eye twitch when I thought of it. I simply corrected her pronunciation of grimoire. Just once. Aye. That's bloody petty. She'd smiled sweetly and stirred her iced tea counterclockwise and said, "Oh, darling, you don't respect labour." I think it may be my accent that had upset her when correcting her. Her accent were bad enough, but both of us sound silly, I suppose, to others. Then she hit me with it. The curse of honest toil and perpetual rent payment. What a fucking sharp curse that is, eh? Sounds proper soft, doesn't it? You could go much worse than that, couldn't you? How about the curse of, I don't know, no skin and living or being born a pretty young boy child in the house next door to Gary Glitter? No. This curse has been the bane of my life, if I'm honest. The terms of it were, in hindsight, diabolical. I would always need money. Real money. Coins, notes, bank balances that disappeared on me. I would never keep wealth gained through magic or no. No one would give me a credit card. No evil there could I get a mortgage for. Any gold I had transmuted into debt. Any treasure turned into pocket-washed receipts. I'd be forced to earn income through menial, supervised employment by bastards, not managers, preferably involving uniforms which were cheap and nasty and fucking embarrassing to wear. Oh, and laminated rule posters. Oh, my fucking life, I hated them. What's a man like myself supposed to do when ordered to wash his hands after the bog? If you can guess that, then you won't be loving it next time you're in and partway through one of those hand-cooked fries. They might have been cooked by me. Anyway, any attempt to escape from the curse would result in more hours, never fewer. I would always be almost promoted, and never quite. And worst of all, I would understand exactly why this were happening. Grimoire, she called it. Grimoire. It's fucking bastard in Grimoire, you stupid fucking bitch! I killed her eventually, that fucking witch. I set fire to her and her trailer. A remarkably difficult thing to do when they're situated in a New Orleans swamp and she were a fucking swamp witch. Both being right damp as a part at course. I salted the ground. Well, mud. I used 3 languages no one's spoken since Bronze Age to castigate her and send her soul to hell. I really buggered her up, to be honest, but the curse remained, humming contentedly. The fucking bastard. I checked my watch. If I didn't leave now, I'd be late enough that Karen/Astaroth would smile. That smile is how hell recruits. I grabbed my almost coat, stepped over the summoning chalk I hadn't cleaned up properly, and paused at the door. Right, I muttered to myself. Trick Lucifer, outplay Astaroth, steal a throne, finish by 10. Oh, cover fries till 6. The universe, I found, appreciates clarity. I locked the door behind me, changed my mind, unlocked it, opened the fucking door to the street. Go on then, rob me, you bastards, I've got fuck all anyway. And I headed out to earn me wages, because nothing says Dark Lord in waiting like walking through the drizzle to the golden arches while planning the overthrow of damnation. December's weather had teeth. Not the picturesque sort you see on cards. You know, soft snow, tasteful lanterns, a sense of goodwill, perky little fucking rubbing red-breast bastards and the like. No, nothing like that. It were the wet, gnawing kind that gets into your shoes and stays there, quietly judging your quality as socks, and guess what? Mine were fucking shite. Pavement glistened with rain that had given up on becoming snow and instead chose wet shittiness, mixing with the grime and the dog shit of the day. My breath steamed. My McDonald's logoed wind cheater did nothing useful, like, cheap fucking wind. So I walked fast, collar up, hands buried in my pockets that held lint, a bus ticket from 2019, and anti-insulation. I needed to take my mind off the misery. I needed to think about t'others' misery. It made me right happy, it did. I proper enjoy that, I do. Oh, what about the ring? That were it. The hope. That were the problem, actually. That were always the problem. They say it's the hope that kills you, and it often is, although occasionally it's an escaped leopard from the local zoo, but that's another story. Anyway, don't worry about that. Rings are like that. They're small, circular, and ruinously inconvenient. I ran through the options as I walked, mine ticking like a bomb with a sense of irony. There were books about him, of course. Even famous fiction and written by folk who understood him. What was his face? J.R.R.R.R.R.R. Tolkien. Fancy having that many fucking middle names. Maybe the priest who baptized him had a stutter or something. There were always books. Grimoires chained to lecterns. Indexes written in blood. Entire libraries that screamed at you if it had their own chapter. But the obvious ones were useless. Too slow. Too guarded. Too likely to eat your soul before you got to page 3. And then there were the experts. Dark scholars with more ego than sense. Dastardly dastard the Red, for one. Were he still about? Then there were the necromancers who thought shouting Latin counted as spell casting. There were the modern occultists who charged consultancy fees and still got their sigils upside down. No. The ring mentioned in the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum and the Malleus Maleficarum doesn't want to be found. It wants to be remembered. Aye, that'll be what it wants. Which meant whoever had it last didn't lose it by accident. Some bastard'll know where the bastarding thing is. And that was when it landed in me head. Heavy and obvious and irritating. Simon de Montford. He were a right clever bastard, wasn't he? Oh, of course. The immortal professor. A walking occult library with supernatural GPS. A human fucking filing cabinet of eldritch knowledge. A man who treated angels like contractual obligations and demons like mildly disappointing students. If anyone had the ring, I knew exactly where it was and why it should never, ever be touched. It were gonna be him. I smiled to myself, rain dripping off me nose, my pointless hood funneling water down me back. Oh, Simon, I murmured, you beautiful, dangerous bastard. Lost in this pleasant realization, I barely noticed the alley until I was already in it. It was on my usual trip to work. Narrow, damp, smelt like a tramp's gooch and chips. Worried me that I knew what a tramp's gooch smelt like, to be honest. A man was sat on ground wrapped in layers that had once been clothes, holding out a creased McDonald's coffee cup with a few coins rattling inside it. He was like an embarrassed witness. Had to be a McDonald's cup, didn't it, eh?
Spare change, governor?
He asked. I didn't slow down. Go fuck yourself, I said lightly, without malice, without even looking at him. My train of thought never derailed. The ring, the professor, the timing, the delicious symmetry of stealing the key to Hell's throne from the one man arrogant enough to catalogue it and thought he could protect it. I smiled wider as I walked on, pleased with myself in the abstract way one is pleased with a well-executed sin. It's important, I find, to acknowledge your victories, however small they are. And then I felt it. Before I saw the sacred golden arches of despair and processed food, before the lights or the smell or the creeping despondency, it were a sensation, a pressure, a wrongness in the air, like standing too close to a mouth that smiles whilst planning your death. McDonald's. Some people see it first, others smell it. I sensed it, the way prayer senses a predator or theologian sense a contradiction. A low, greasy hum in reality. Fluorescent lighting bleeding into the spiritual spectrum. And then, there it was. Fucking bright, fucking cheerful, an indestructible fucking hell of a kind. I stopped walking. For a moment. Just a moment. I considered turning around and running. I considered summoning something unspeakable and letting it eat the building. But curses are very particular things, and Ginny May Picklethorne had been thorough. One more night, I thought. One more shift, under Karen's demonic, watchful, literal, infernal gaze. One more evening of smiling at customers while Hell audited my performance metrics. And then I'd have the ring. Then Simon would be outplayed. Then Lucifer and Astaroth would both discover what it felt like to lose. Probably. Well, I sighed, stepping towards the doors, rain dripping from my coat. All can be damned. Literally. I only had to work out how to get that bloody ring. That bloody ring. The automatic door slid open with a cheerful chime that sounded far too much like a hell-caused scream.
What time do you call this, belly love?
Asked Karen.
Lucifer. Ah, the magic ring. Yes, that ring. And before anyone says it, no, this was well before Tolkien got my idea. Centuries before. Millennia, actually. If anything, he owes us royalties. And if anyone questions that, do remember, I invented irony, contracts, and consequences. And I repurposed this very premise for Tolkien himself. He reintroduced the world of the Fae and magic to the following generations at a time when science was removing it, introducing fairy folk and magic with no god, just Sauron, who, if you haven't worked it out, will win in the end, and of course represented me, Satan. Rewrite those literary papers, my good wrong people. Now, listen properly. The ring doesn't have a name. That's important. Names give things boundaries. Titles imply function. This ring predates the courtesy of being explained. It has a beginning, not an identity. And beginners, as any angel will tell you while lying through a mission, are where the real damage happens. It started as nothing. A band of worked metal hammered out in a street-side forge, dust, sweat, shouting. Somewhere unimportant, somewhere godlessly imperial. Rome used to like to believe every street was eternal. Most of them smelled like old fish and sewage. A goldsmith made it for a rich man who wanted something that looked permanent. Love, power, ownership. Take your pick. Humans are adorably predictable. Then there was a war. There is always a war. The ring was taken from that dying man's finger by a Roman soldier who did not bother to learn his name. He cut it off cleanly before the man was cold. Well, before he was even dead. The delightful thing was, that man was one of his own. Roman and a soldier. A brother in arms. In fact, his very saviour, ironically. A man who sacrificed himself by taking the blow of an enemy that should have felled the thief, before the thief took his ring and his finger. That thief's name, since you insist on history, was Gaius Cassius Longinus. Yes, that Longinus. And no, he wasn't a noble. The church tried very hard to sand him down into something inspirational. They failed. I was there. The spear he carried was the Lancia Longini, what you now call the Holy Lance, the spear of destiny, the thing that Christianity pretended was about mercy. It wasn't. It was simply a regulation issue spear, sharp, balanced, familiar in the hand. Longinus was at Christ's crucifixion. Longinus had already killed that day. Many times. He was tired, bored, and irritated by the noise. Crucifixions are meant to be quiet affairs. This one wasn't cooperating. So when he stepped forward and drove the spear into the side of the man on the cross, he did it because he wanted to. Let's be very clear about that. Not to confirm death, not out of duty, not to fulfill prophecy. He enjoyed it. Even I am not that, whatever that is. God's Son's blood ran down that shaft of that spear, that part you know. Scripture records it with reverence. Blood and water, they say, as if poetry might disinfect the vitriolic act. What they don't tell you is that the blood covered the thief's arm. Thief of many things, lives and belongings, and that the blood covered the ring. Gold is a very receptive metal. The ring absorbed 3 things at once: divine blood, mortal cruelty, and a will with intent. That last one matters most. Longinus did not repent in that moment. He did not tremble. He did not look away. He felt satisfaction. The quiet, intimate pleasure of ending something sacred with a single, irreversible motion. That is not sin, by the way. Sin is clumsy. This was choice, and choice is where power lives. The ring changed. Not immediately. It didn't glow like in the films. No trumpets were blaring. Heaven is terrible at subtlety. Hell prides itself on patience. The ring waited. It learned. It remembered the feeling of being present at a boundary, the moment where the eternal touched the finite and bled. Longinus wore it for years. He was vicious, efficient, loyal only to escalation. Wherever he went, things aligned themselves around him. Authority, fear, obedience. He didn't command, he expected, and the world obliged. By the time he died, the ring had learned something invaluable, that heaven could be wounded by mortals and that men could enjoy doing it, and that objects, unlike angels, are very good at holding grudges. So the ring passed on, as all cursed things do. Taken, stolen, inherited, lost, found. It never asked for worship. It never demanded allegiance. It only ever did 2 things. It travelled through history, and it made summoning possible. The devil and the demons could be pulled through the plains, as this ring existed on them all, making a doorway I didn't want. Not an easy journey for me. Never easy, but possible. You see, blood that touches divinity and is welcomed by cruelty leaves a residue, a permission, a crack in the rules heaven pretends are unbreakable. That ring is not a key because there is no lock. It's a reminder. After Longinus died and came to me, and how he died badly. He screamed at shadows he'd trained himself not to see, and he will be doing so, forever at my whim. After his death, the ring did what all truly dangerous objects do. It vanished. Even when I was there and I had it in my clawed grasp, it vanished. Not dramatically, no volcano, no choir. It simply slipped sideways out of history, like a thought you're absolutely sure you had until you try to remember it. Kingdoms rose, fell, burned, converted, rebranded. Saints were canonized. Heresies were tidied away. Libraries were lost, found, and lost again. And the ring belonged to no one. That was the problem. Summoning requires ownership. Not possession. Ownership. A locus. A claim. A line drawn in metaphysical sand that says this is mine and I'm responsible for what comes next. The ring had none. It passed hand to hand, pocket to pocket, coffin to grave robber, without ever being wanted for itself, so I couldn't find it. Do you have any idea how infuriating that is? I can trace crowns through bloodlines, swords through wars, gods through pantheons. I can hear prayers whispered into pillows in hotel rooms at 3 a.m. But an object that refuses to belong? That refuses narrative? That refuses to be important? Invisible. For nearly 17 centuries, I assumed it had sunk out of the realm of people. Objects do that. They end up at the bottom of rivers, seas, time. perfect places for inconvenient artifacts to sulk. I was wrong. August 1798. I was there. Of course I was. It was the Battle of the Nile. Fire on water. Cannon smoke like torn clouds. The French and British fleets tearing each other apart in Aboukir Bay, while history pretended it wasn't watching. Nelson losing an eye to glory. Men losing everything else to unfounded patriotism. And there, the ring surfaced again. Not on a finger, not on a commander, on a market stall. Egypt, you see, has always been very good at holding on to things everyone else forgets. Gods, names, bones. The ring had drifted there over centuries, taken by pilgrims, thieves, traders, scholars who mistook it for decoration and never noticed how arguments followed them like feral dogs. A British sailor found it while on shore leave. His name was Thomas Brearley. Able seaman, HMS Swiftsure. Not famous, not clever, not brave in any way history bothers to write down, exactly the sort of man objects like that adore. He bought the ring for almost nothing, thought it lucky, thought Egypt smelled strange, thought very little at all about it, really. When the battle came, he wore it into cannon fire and survived when men better than him didn't. When Swiftsure was captured and later reclaimed, the ring stayed on his finger when all else was taken as plunder, like it planned. Thomas went home eventually, married, drank, aged, died. The ring stayed. It passed down quietly. Sons, daughters, sold once during a bad winter, bought back during a good one, pawned, retrieved, always returning, like a debt that enjoys patience. It threaded itself through the family tree without ever drawing attention to itself. Until it reached Nietzsche. Poor, gentle, unremarkable Nietzsche. A man so thoroughly overlooked by the world that even destiny tripped over him by accident. The ring fit him beautifully. Objects like that love people who don't think they deserve anything. Makes the claiming easier later. And then Simon de Montfort decided to be clever. Do you know how much work it took to arrange that? How many nudges, whispers, missed chances, wrong turns it took? To get a knife into Nietzsche's shaking hand. To line up an alley, a lecture, a lie, a perfect lie. To make sure Belphastus walked past at exactly the wrong moment. Centuries of waiting, and it all hinged on one homeless man finally being angry enough to act. It makes me smile. Not kindly. What would you expect? And Belphastus, clever, smug, unbearably pleased with himself, walked right past the solution to his problems and told it to go fuck itself. Honestly, watching that, oh, this was going to be beautiful. Now we'll see what will be when Belphastus walks home through this alley, an alley containing a man with almost nothing, a man annoyed at Belphastus and the world, a homeless man without hope or anything, except a sharp, pointy knife.